Okay. So the other day, I saw somebody write a joke about how, what was it? That's right. I saw somebody write a joke that said, the Golden State Warrior fans, of course, the Golden State Warriors are playing the Toronto Raptors in the NBA Finals. The Raptors are up 3-1. Go Raptors. I'm still predicting they're going to win in 7. I think Golden State wins the next 2 games, but whatever. Okay, so somebody wrote the joke of Golden State fans want them to release the Snyder cut of the NBA Finals, which I thought was funny. Just because, as good-natured sports ribbing, as a Toronto guy, I'm giving ribbons to anybody out there who might be Golden State fans. And Golden State's an awesome team, but, a little fun ribbing, right? What I wasn't expecting was that was about sports. That was about the Golden State Warriors, Toronto Raptors, NBA Finals. A bunch of Snyder cut people, the Snyder cut people, I guess took offense to it and jumped into my Twitter discussion there and started turning it all into a Zack Snyder cut releases discussion and debate, right? So I'm reading through this stuff and I still can't believe this release the Zack Snyder cut thing is still around. But I wanted to address it for a second, okay? Because let's be honest here. Regardless of whether or not I don't believe a Snyder cut exists, but by Snyder cut, I don't just mean the footage was shot and Zack Snyder edited it together, but there's no post-production work. I mean a true completed version of a Snyder cut version of Justice League. Sound mixing and editing, color correction, all the visual effects, everything that needs to be done. The full post-production process is finished. A truly completed, finished version of the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. I don't believe it exists, but I don't know. I don't know if it exists or not. I think there's good reason to believe it doesn't. From exactly what Zack Snyder has said, I believe there's good reason to believe it doesn't, but I don't know that it doesn't. But the debate rages on. Zack Snyder was on stage at a Comic-Con and somebody asked him, does the Snyder cut exist? And he basically said, well, that's up to WB to finish and to release. Well, finish means it's not done. There's this big piece of footage around where a fan had his little cell phone out and asked Zack Snyder at a signing, said, is it done? He says, is there a cut? And he said, well, yeah, there's a cut. I have lots of cuts. If by cut you mean the footage was shot and he's edited it together without any post-production, which is half the work, but without any of the post-production, I believe that exists. Yeah, I believe Zack Snyder shot footage and he's edited together footage, but I don't believe any of the post-production stuff is done. But again, I don't know. And it's just funny to me that years after Justice League is done, with Zack Snyder now trying to move on, but people continuously throw this in his face. And by the way, I will forever be in Zack Snyder's debt because he made Man of Steel, which you guys know I get a bit of a hard-on for Man of Steel. I think it's the most underrated comic book movie of all frickin' time. Thank you, Zack Snyder, in case you haven't heard me say it a million times, for making Man of Steel, one of the greatest comic book films of all time. Anyway, that aside. So I finally had enough. Like, everybody's trying to make arguments about the Zack Snyder cut, about why it doesn't make sense why it would exist, which has been me, but I don't know. And then people saying, well, did you see this cell phone camera footage of a kid who got Zack saying there he has lots of cuts of it? That means there's a completed version. Oh, you know what? So I finally just this morning said to myself, I said, self, let's just put it out there and just ask Zack Snyder. Let's just ask Zack Snyder if a truly fully completed version of Justice League is done and let him answer yes or no. Then we know. Because I think I know what the answer is, but I don't actually know. I believe one doesn't exist, but that doesn't mean it doesn't. So I'd like to know. So this is what I put up on Twitter, all right? And I just want to talk about this here. I put this up on Twitter. And whether Zack Snyder, whether Zack Snyder responds to this or not, I don't know. But here's what I had, because people want Warner Brothers to release the Snyder Cut. Would we all agree that Warner Brothers can't release something that isn't finished? So is it finished or is it not? So I got on Twitter today and I put out this thing Just asking so we can all know, so we can put this debate to rest for this movie that came out years ago, and let Zack Snyder move on and keep making movies. Let's get off the man's back and let him do his thing. But anyway, so I simply asked the question, is it a yes or no answer? And here's what I put out there. I put this out. I said, let's put this whole Zack Snyder cut debate to rest by just asking Snyder himself, Zack, can you confirm that a finished, edited, musically scored, color corrected, visual effects finished, sound mixed and edited, fully and truly completed Snyder Cut version of the Justice League does in fact exist? Yes or no? Because if yes, then fucking A. Like a lot of other people, there are tons of us who would love to see it. If no, then can the rest of us get off the man's back and let him move on and get back to making new movies, please? Because what I see in this debate is a lot of people, I think, are wrestling over semantics. I think most people acknowledge that Zack Snyder has shot all the footage and has edited all that footage together. I believe most of us, it might not be true, but I think most of us agree that that much is true. Where we start getting into debates amongst each other, I think, is over the semantics of what is a completed version, though. He's maybe completed an edit, but that doesn't mean it's been color corrected. That doesn't mean it's been musically scored. That doesn't mean all the visual effects and post-production have been done. That doesn't mean you have a fully completed version of the film that if you had one, Warner Brothers, if they wanted to, could release it. And my belief is, I believe he has shot the footage. I believe, as he said with his own mouth, he has several cuts of it. But I don't believe a truly finished version that Warner Brothers could release, even if they wanted to. I don't believe a finished version actually exists. But again, I don't know that for fact. Zack Snyder has never told me. Kevin Tsujihara, before he left Warner Brothers, never told me that, no, such a thing does not exist. So I said, you know what? Instead of all of us just arguing over the semantics of it, let's all of us just raise our hands and say, you know what? We don't know for a fact because we've never heard anybody officially say for a fact. Let's just ask Zack Snyder. And again, Zack Snyder is under no freaking obligation to respond to this stupid tweet I put up. He's under no obligation to do that. But if he does, then at least it puts that debate to rest. If he says, yes, a fully completed, musically scored, visual effects finished, color corrected, all that kind of stuff, fully, totally packaged, complete version of the movie is done and finished, then great, that ends the debate. Then we don't have to worry about it or speculate about it anymore. If he says no, a fully completed version doesn't exist, well then great. That ends the debate and we don't have to worry about arguing amongst ourselves anymore. But what's funny is I just put that up like 15 minutes ago. And I'm already seeing people both pro and like who believe a Snyder Cut exists and who believe it doesn't, getting offended that I even asked. John, we should just know. You shouldn't ask. Why? Let's just get him to say yes or no so we know. Why? And I asked a couple of people on Twitter, why are you afraid of the answer? Like, if the answer is yes, that's great. Okay, if the answer is yes, then we know. You know, I thought it didn't exist, but now Zack Snyder's confirmed it exists. Great. I want to know that. If you think a Zack Snyder cut exists and it doesn't, don't you want to know that? Or do you not want to know that? Do you just want to live in ignorance and go, no, I'm just going to believe it exists no matter what? I mean, I think we should just find out the answer either way. And I'm cool with it either way. I don't think it exists, but if it does, I'd love to know. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't all of us? Even all of us who are the most hardcore going, no, a Snyder cut doesn't exist. Okay, but if it actually does, if the truth is that it does exist, wouldn't you want to know? So, I don't know. So I just thought I'd say, because I still can't believe how much this debate is still around, you know? So I thought I'd say, look, let's just settle it. Let's just put this out there. I'll see if Zack Snyder feels so inclined, because he's under no obligation to respond to this at all. He doesn't even know I exist. I've met the man, but I'm sure he doesn't know I exist. But I thought I'd just put this out there, get a yes or no answer, and then there, it finishes the debate. Now we can change the debate to whether or not Warner Brothers should complete the Snyder Cut. Should Warner Brothers take that edit, that Snyder has, do all the post-production work, put in all the visual effects, do all the musical scoring, now we can at least debate about the right thing instead of debating about something that may or not even exist right now. So anyway, that's just what I thought. That's what I thought. I put it out there. A lot of people on both sides of the argument getting butthurt at the fact that I even asked the question. Whatever. I think actually knowing the actual answer is better than not knowing. So that's just me. Anyway.